Welcome back. This is Mr. Tom here again with another video for you. This week we are going to be talking a little bit about birds, and we're going to make a bird feeder. At least I'm going to show you how to make a bird feeder. I'm going to start you through the process, just basically how to get it set up, and then I'm going to show you the one that I made. All right, and then we're also just going to go a little bit about birds' beak sizes, and how you can tell by looking at the shape of their beak, maybe what kinds of foods they can eat. Okay? And we're also going to use that knowledge to figure out what your birds might eat depending on the kinds of feed or bird seed you put in your feeder. Maybe you can kind of tell what birds you should expect to see. All right, well, let's get started. All right, well, let's take a look at the basic materials that you're going to need. First off, a tin can. This is a sort of a standard size tin can, a little over 16 ounce, I think. You can find a lot of these in grocery stores. What I did was I cleaned it, washed it out, took off the labeling, and as you take off the label, you'll notice that there will be a point where there's still some of that labeling stuck to it. That's because there's glue there. You're going to want to get that glue off. So what I recommend is letting this soak in some soapy water, even let it soak overnight. And you can take a scrubber, a scrubbing sponge maybe, and just get it off that way. There are also different cleaning products you can use to get it off. Main point is you want to get it all clean. Now you might notice that I have a hole here and I have a hole on the other side. So what I did was I took a hammer and nailed the hole through here. So because this involves hammer and nail, I recommend that parents do this. Nails can be sharp. Hammers, if used incorrectly, can be dangerous. So I really recommend the adults do this, but of course kids, you can watch and participate how you can. Word about this, depending on how you want to hang your hanger, you might want your holes on the side like I did, pretty much in the center. Okay? So the idea is you're thinking about its center of gravity. So the point where if I were to hold this try and balance with one or two fingers, I want to get it to the point where, I'm having trouble doing this, get it to the point where it won't tip. Now, because this is round, this isn't working too well, but hopefully you get the idea. Because what you're going to want to do is you're going to take a string and you're going to string it through the holes here, and then you're going to tie a loop. That's going to be how you're going to hang onto the branch. You can also use a wire hanger too if you'd like. If you want to hang your feeder like this, straight up and down, then you're going to put your holes on either side here and here. Okay. Next, you're going to need some kind of bird feed. All right. It's pretty easy to find at gardening stores, little shops. So this is a mix of different kinds of seeds. We got some sesame seed in here, a couple of other different kinds of seed, and then we got small-ish, but larger seeds. These are sunflower seeds with the shell still attached. It's pretty easy to find, especially this time of year. Now the fun part, you can take a can and you can decorate it however you want. Again, keep in mind that this will be outside, so you do want to use things that are safe, things that aren't going to harm any wildlife. You can paint this. I recommend staying away from oil-based paints just because they are a little toxic. I also wouldn't recommend watercolors because being outside, and if it rains, it could wash that paint off. So what I would recommend is using acrylic paint. Acrylic paint, after a couple of coats, it does stick to this pretty well, okay? And it's safer than oil-based paint. Now, let me show you, so you have a better idea of how this can look. Let me show you one that I made. All right. Might be able to tell what kind of insect this is. This is my bumblebee feeder. Let me tell you a little bit how I did this. So here you can see the string. This is where I drilled or hammered those holes. and I strung it through, so you can see through there, through the holes, and then I tied a knot up here, so I made a loop, and you can hang this off a branch. Then what I did, or actually, sorry, I should say before I put the string on, is I painted this, and I used my acrylic paints. I used black and I used yellow. And to make the lines even, I actually tape off different sections. So you can do one at a time. Paint one section, say the little black lines first, let those dry, take the tape off, and then you can do your yellow sections. Okay? And because this was a bee, I wanted to put some wings on it. I used hot glue and a hot glue gun. That works really well, pretty sturdy. I attached some wings. Now these wings are made of chipboard. It's kind of like a thick cardstock. It's from a cereal box. I just cut out a wing shape, and I use that same wing to trace another wing, so that way they were the same size. And I painted these lines there. So those are called veins in the wing veins. Okay. And of course I glued it onto here once this was dry. If you don't have access to hot glue or hot glue gun, that's okay. You can still use Elmer's glue. That should be fine. You might want to find a way to make it a little more secure, though. Maybe tape it on there if you can. And just for fun, since I had them, I put googly eyes on here. Now, if you look closely at a bee, or really any insect for that matter, they don't have eyes that look like this. These are more like human eyes. But since I had them and I thought it would look cute, I went ahead and put them on there. What I did was, while this was still drying, it was wet enough that I could stick these on there, and then once it dried, the googly eyes were stuck on there. So, pretty fun way to give it some life. And then the last thing I added was this stick. I just went outside, grabbed a little twig, and you can see that I taped it in here. Might be a little hard to see, but I just taped it in there with some duct tape. Now this is going to be a perch for your birds to land on. Okay? So imagine you have your little bird coming up to your feeder, checking it out, perched up here, and then taking a look to see what's inside. All right. Now let me show you a little bit of bird beak variation. Okay, so this is where the science comes in. So depending on what kind of feed you're going to use, you're probably going to attract different kinds of birds. So let's take a look at this here. Let's start with the top one. Long, slender. Okay, this is a kind of beak you'd find on, say, a robin. Now, if you've ever seen a robin feed its chicks in a nest, you have probably seen a parent with a worm in its mouth. So this shape of beak is good for getting into, say, little holes in trees or even the dirt, and grabbing things like medium to, not really large insects, but about earthworm size, let's say. Maybe some small beetles and grubs, certainly. So if there's a bird like that with this shaped beak, and you can bet that they can probably grab insects like that. Let's take a look at this second one here. This is a beak. It's very small. It's got a pointed end. This would be a beak like you'd find on, say, a chickadee. Remember these seeds here? Let's take another close look. Some of these seeds are pretty small. So do you think a bird with that size beak is going to go after really large items, or do you think it would be better for small seeds? I think you can figure that out. Now let's take a look at the third one down. Put my seeds back. So you notice this one, larger, a little larger than this one, still pretty short. It's got a very pointy end, but the base compared to the tip is very wide. It's like a triangle shape or a wedge shape. So what that's going to do is that's going to give the bird some strength at the base of its beak for it to almost use this like a hammer. That really pointy end would be good for poking into seeds or even small nuts, but it's able to use so much force because of this reinforced base here, that wide base, that it can actually pound into a seed or pound into a small nut. Okay? Think of a bird like, say, a nuthatch or a cardinal. And just for fun, I really doubt you're going to find a bird like this out of your bird feeder, but in the interest of talking about beak sizes and variation, this one here, that is going to be the kind of beak you're going to find on a large bird of prey, or sometimes they call them raptors. Not talking about velociraptors, we're talking about the birds. These birds are like your falcons, your hawks, your eagles. They have that really pronounced curve there. It's almost like a claw and really sharp, almost razor sharp beak. Now that's going to be specialized for eating meat. So imagine your hawk and you're searching around at the bottom, you're looking for mice. You could even go after small birds, you can go after snakes. It's for eating meat. All right, like I said, you're probably not going to find this in your feeder, but just try and think, what kinds of birds you're going to attract depending on the kinds of feed you're going to use. All right, well, I had a lot of fun doing this project. I think you will too. A lot of opportunities for creativity. You can do all kinds of insects. You can do a ladybug. You can do different kinds of beetles, flies even. It's pretty fun. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed making your feeder.